But just a reminder, this slide gives you the links to please check out the other seminars that we are offering, and also to complete our CARES application to see if we can help your business specifically. It'll give you a chance to receive some specific specialty consulting from folks like Mr. Tallarico here at no charge to you. So please check those out. And then I will say good morning. Welcome to Selling in a Post-COVID World. My name is Betsy Coulter, and I'm with the Collin SBDC, and we're very excited to have you, and we're very excited to have Jim Tallarico with us for this session. This will be an interactive session, and it will be recorded. We encourage you to ask questions. You can use the chat feature down at the bottom. Just type in your questions, and I'll be keeping up with those and be sharing with Jim. He is open to us interrupting him. Please don't hesitate. If you have a quick question, we can stop him and have him go a little more in depth on any information that you would like. But let me go ahead and introduce Jim and we'll get started. James Tallarico is a nationally recognized small to mid-sized business expert located here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And he is the CEO and founder of the Greater Prairie Business Consulting, Inc. With more than 30 years of diversified business experience, Jim has helped thousands of business owners across the US and in Canada, helping them to tackle those tough business problems and improve their organization performance. His client success stories have been highlighted in the Wall Street Journal, Dallas Business Journal, Chicago Daily Herald, and MSNBC's Your Business. Jim is a certified management consultant which represents the evidence of the highest standards of consulting and a commitment to the continuous development and adherence to the ethical canons of the profession. Jim, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Thank you to the Small Business Development Center for, I'm trying to move my slide right now. Looks like my slide is jammed. Well, thank you for the Small Business. Thank you to the Small Business Development Center for welcoming, for inviting me to participate in this webinar. I've been following the webinars over the last couple of weeks. I think there's been a lot of great content, so I encourage people to sign up for other webinars and also to fill out the applications. I think it's a great value to get some free consulting and help you start the year off correct. All right, Betsy, I do have a technical difficulty, even though it worked fine before.
It sure did. So your arrows, are they being slow again?
My arrows, yeah, they're not working. And
you can, if you want to, you can escape and we can go back to the PowerPoint and then start it again. Maybe it just got frozen or something.
Okay, yeah, I think we might need to do that. So I hit escape, and what do you want me to do now?
Is it not responding at all? Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay.
Okay, but now I can't see my slides, so let me
go ahead and share your screen again.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, so let's see.
Now we're back. Now if you go back up to slide, just either resume slideshow or go back to the top, the slideshow, and then from over to just hit from the beginning again.
All right, slideshow from the beginning.
There we go. Now try your arrows.
All right. No.
Not letting you.
Let me try it. I'll try it again. Stop the share. And then screen share. Let me click on this.
You know what? If you just want to leave it in yeah, you can leave it in this form if you want to, and just scroll down your slides that way if you'd like to.
Okay, let me see what happens when I do this. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas.
Okay, there you go.
All right, so welcome to Selling in a Post-COVID World. Again, thank you, Small Business Development Center, for allowing me to participate in the event. Betsy, thank you very much for hosting. You did a great job last time. And I also want to thank our viewers. One of the things that I want to send out through the Small Business Development Center is my free COVID-19 Small Business Owners Survival Toolkit. And there's about 36 different files in there. There's all kinds of information, financial information, tax information. So what are all the tax advantages that you can take advantage of this year? They're listed. I do want to caveat that I'm not a CPA or not an attorney. So the information I published was public information. However, you want to check with your professionals before implementing things that relate to tax or have legal implications. There's HR and safety information in there. So there's guidelines that you have to adhere to keep people safe. There's a great review of that. If employees don't feel comfortable, there's a process you have to go through to make them feel comfortable. That information is in there as well as leadership, sales and marketing strategies, government information, and business advice to help you survive this crisis, and more importantly, to be prepared for the next one. A lot of people don't realize this, but each year, for more than a decade now, there's either been a major man-made or natural disaster. And so disaster planning needs to be a better part of your plan. And this pandemic was one type of disaster. But if you get flooded, or if there's a natural disaster and you can't operate from your office, there's some things you need to do. So it's a great toolkit. Two other quick things that are in there. Cyber crimes have gone up by 300% since COVID. I had a client just before the COVID crisis out in Lincoln, Nebraska, and they had to pay $7,000 because they had a ransomware attack and to get back their data. So it's a real threat. There's information there about setting up passwords the right way to make sure that you're protected. And another, I think, thing in here that's a great value is a remote workers policy. So 2/3 of companies have remote workers, but almost 60% don't have a policy. And if you don't have a structure, your people are not going to be that efficient, not because they don't want to be, but because you're not directing to be so. So I hope you fill out the application. We'll get you a copy of our Small Business Owners Survival Toolkit. So Betsy, thank you very much for the introduction. There's three things I always like to mention about what I think makes me unique. The first is the scope and breadth of my experience. I had worked for two companies, national consulting companies, as a quality manager. So I literally worked with thousands of small businesses across the US and in Canada. And that's an achievement not too many people can speak of. I'm a certified management consultant. So what that means is that my credentials, my understanding of consulting, my track record of success with clients, and my ROI have all been vetted by the Institute of Management Consultants. And I also adhere to a code of ethics, which is part of maintaining my certification. Only 1% of all consultants in the world are certified. In addition to that, ethics is front and center in my business. So I was a finalist for the Better Business Bureau's Torch Award for Ethics, both last year and the year before. And my company is also a certified ethics-focused organization. And if you want more information about that, you could reach out to the Small Business Development Center. This is going to be a great session. We're going to talk about marketing and we're going to talk about sales. So when I think of sales, I think of something that it's either inside sales, outside sales. It's direct contact between two people, and marketing is kind of everything else. And there's a lot of changes going on right now. So we're going to tackle the marketing stuff first, and then we're going to talk about selling. I'm going to go through a process where you can sell virtually if you're not doing that right now. We're going to talk about a 4-step sales response plan for COVID, which revolve around 4 different R's. And then we're going to conclude everything with next steps, and then we'll open it up to questions. But again, if you have any questions in the middle, like Betsy said, feel free to interrupt me. Betsy, I'd like to introduce those 2 poll questions before we move forward, if possible.
Absolutely. Let's put up the first one. Hang on a second here. Okay, very good. Can you see it?
I can see it, yep. So how would you rate your digital marketing efforts on a scale 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest?
Everybody have a chance to answer? Looks like just about, please. All you need to do is click on one, two, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Okay, Jim will end it and then share the results.
Okay, so kind of what I expected. Everybody kind of came in around 3, which is average. Only 11% called themselves 5s, and 4% came in at 20. Excuse me, number 4 came in at 22%. So about a third are above average. About 40% are average, and about 22% are below average. Let's introduce the second question. I wanted to pose that question because when I work with small businesses, often digital marketing is kind of an afterthought, and it's going to be a big focus next year. So one of the things that I hope I can accomplish through this is to open your eyes to.
Sorry, working on this second.
Some things you can be doing to keep up with the competition in terms of digital marketing.
I'm trying to find the polling. There we go. Sorry about that. There you go.
Okay, this is yes or no. How many attendees feel they need to either improve or start selling virtually?
Well, it looks like you have got a majority here.
Wow. Wow. Well, great. Then you're going to really like the second part as well. There are a lot of statistics around companies selling virtually, and we'll talk about how important that's going to be for 2021. Thank you very much for the information. Let's start with digital marketing. Okay, so how has digital marketing changed because of COVID? Number one of the big changes that's happening right now is personalizing buyer segmentation and messaging around different sales pathways. So what does that mean? In the past, you probably looked at your customers as how big they were, what industry they were in, what products and services they purchased. But the big paradigm change right now is to look at them in terms of their different buying pathways. So for example, it doesn't make a difference if you're a prospect or if you're a customer. If you come to the website and we have an e-commerce site and you're looking to buy, what we want to do is we want to group you in terms of those different buying pathways. So we're going to talk about that. Creating digital cross-functional teams to break down the sales and marketing silos. So if you have a larger company and if you do have a person who's doing marketing and then people are doing sales, what you want to do is you want them to be part of a larger team. If you're a smaller company, and let's say you outsource some of your marketing, maybe bring those people in on some of your discussions for planning for 2021 in terms of sales. Scaling digital, social media, and e-commerce. So you'll see in the statistics that companies are going to be increasing their budgets in terms of digital. Social media is going to be offering more options to sell, and e-commerce efforts which have exploded since COVID, are going to be even easier. We'll talk about some of those trends. Introducing more video content marketing and soliciting customer feedback. So there's sites today like Loom, Cloud App, Canva. There's a bunch of them that allow you to easily insert video messages into emails. And that's an interesting way, a way to stand out when you're following up via email. Content marketing will be very important. Content marketing helps educate your buyers, and it also helps improve trust between you and the potential buyer. And soliciting more customer feedback will also be very important. So you can do that via a Google review, SurveyMonkey. There's a site I think called Delighted. So there's a bunch of ways to capture that. And one of the things I'd like to ask is, I think that the Small Business Development Center has done a fantastic job with these webinars. If you enjoy them as much as I do, why don't you leave them a Google review? I'm sure they'd appreciate it. Creating digital self-service options and website chat boxes. So people in 2020 said, hey, I want a digital pathway to purchase on my own. Companies have reacted to that. And website chat boxes are important because they allow for after-hour service. They allow you to provide more information and just have allow the buyer to have a better customer experience. And last, and I think this is also very important, you want to start thinking about using a real-time actionable marketing reporting dashboard to help you identify the buyers and who you want to follow up with, who you don't want to follow up with. So for example, there's a law that says if you're doing email blasts, and if you send out 5 email blasts and that person on the other end isn't really interested, probably what's going to happen is you're going to end up in their spam folder. And so a better approach is really to send out that email blast, look who clicked through, and engage those people. The other people may not be ready to buy because they got hit hard by COVID, and you don't want to end up in the spam folder when the economy changes. So there's different software solutions to help there. HubSpot offers a pretty comprehensive package, but it's pretty expensive. It's several $100s. A lot of these other ones that I've listed here, Tableau, Adverti, Sife, Clipfolio, I think they offer options from like $20 a month to $40 a month. And Google Data Studio actually has a free option, and what it allows you to do is build 6 different dashboards so you can track different metrics with respect to digital marketing. Okay, so let's talk about digital trends and innovation. I did a lot of research here, and what I found is these trends seem to have a lot of consistency among futurists, if you will. So the first one is digital competition and marketing budgets are going to increase this year. So again, you want to be conscious of that. Quantum computers, big computers, basically going to boost the benefits of things like AI, machine learning, blockchain, and sales funnel management. Geofencing, voice transactions, mobile capabilities, augmented reality, embedded calculators, and 360-degree videos are all going to grow in popularity. And I guess an example of the geofencing, one of the things that I recommend now is something called T-sheets. If you have, let's say, people on a construction site, what you can do is you can have them sign in with their smart device, their phone, but they can only sign in when they're at the job site. So they can't, if they're at the gas station getting a breakfast sandwich and it's 9 o'clock and they're supposed to start at 9 o'clock, well, they're not going to be able to sign in, and they can't have somebody else sign them in either. The application that's coming is if you're driving around and your phone is on and you drive past a department store might send you a coupon or say, why don't you come in now for some kind of spiff. Online shopping will offer single-click purchases and one-day shipping, and chatbots will rule customer service. Web apps will improve website functionality. So just like you have apps on your phone, there's going to be apps for websites to make negotiating those sites easier. Google Ads will offer automated bidding, social reviews, polls, shares, links, video, Facebook stories, Instagram Reels, and other user-generated and interactive content will receive more focus to influence buyers. Cybersecurity solutions will make digital safer. Email marketing, this is an important one, will continue to be the most cost-effective digital marketing option. The ROI on email marketing is 3,800%. So what that means is for every dollar that you invest in email marketing, you get back $38. Remember that one. And brands will become more socially responsible. Some statistics from last year that I think are very important for you to know. Number one, 97% of people learn of local businesses online. Local searches result in a conversion rate of 80%. So local is very important. 89% of consumers will shop with a competitor after a poor website user experience. So having a good website is important. Online reviews will influence the purchasing decisions of 93% of consumers. 71% of consumers who had a positive experience with a brand on social media are likely to refer friends and family. Companies that have blogs have 97% more links to their websites, and 51% of online shoppers currently purchase with their smartphones. So let's talk about some statistics that relate to small businesses. I actually have 4 statistics here. I grouped 2 together because they came out to the same percentage. But when I read through these, think about where your company is with respect to these statistics. The first statistic says 47% of business owners do their marketing in-house. And I imagine that websites are usually outsourced, so they're doing some things in-house and some things out of house. 47% of businesses spend less than $10,000 a year on marketing. That may be something that you want to up in 2021. 50% of businesses spend less than 2 hours per week on marketing. And that's kind of what I find. It's not really anything that businesses take serious. Maybe the HR person has some social media apps on his or her phone and they're typing things in. But this is another area where you may want to focus more of your energies. And 61% of marketers say their biggest challenge is generating regular traffic. So let's talk about creating a digital marketing strategy. Elements of a digital marketing plan, from a strategic perspective, you want to answer the following questions. What are your goals? What's your budget? Who are your target customers? What sales approaches do you need to reach those customers? And what are your customers' decision-making processes? Okay. The next step is you want to figure out, well, what can I do in-house versus what should I outsource to other people? So questions around that include, what do I need to do? When do I need to start? Who will do that? Will I need outside help? And how am I going to pay for it? And before you take on a digital marketing function, just think through all the time that you are going to spend. There's setup time. If you have a blog, you have to create regular content. So there's regular activity. There's maintenance to the site. There's reporting that you have to review. And then there's always optimization type things. So in terms of outsourcing, there are 2 options. You can go with an agency. The average agency cost, though, isn't inexpensive. It's $168 an hour on average. So that means if you spend 15 hours a month, you're going to spend that $10,000. A cheaper option may be to look into Fiverr, Upwork. There's a software called Marketing 360, and have them help with some of the aspects of your digital marketing. Okay, I'm going to talk about some essential digital resources. If you're someone starting off, I think that you want to look at this pretty closely. But if you're someone who has all this stuff established, when I go through the different types of resources, just think about how much energy you're really spending on each one of those areas and how you may want to tweak it. When I was putting this together, I said, you know what, I need to focus more time on this or that. So websites, the purpose of a website should be to educate the visitor about your business. It should include a CTA as an acronym for call to action. So it might be to collect data from your visitors. You want to make sure that your website is mobile. That's very important. Like we saw earlier, most people buy with their smartphones now. All your digital resources should drive traffic to your website. If you're building a website on your own, and it's probably a task that you want to leave to professionals, but there's sites like Wix and Shopify if you're going to do e-commerce, WordPress if you're going to do a blog, that you want to look into. The costs include the costs for a domain or more than one domain, the website templates, hosting, and storage costs. SEO uses keywords to get links back to your website and makes it easier for people to find you. SEO is usually something that you do up front after you've set up your website. It can be distinguished from SEM, which is search engine management, as opposed to search engine optimization, which continually tweaks to make sure that you're staying in front of all your customers. Online reputation, Again, I think this is really critical. A lot of companies don't focus on this. It can really help your website rankings. So seek out positive reviews and testimonials and continually build those reviews. E-commerce, selling goods and services online. If you're not really selling a lot, you can get away with Square. Square is a free service, but Shopify is much more robust. And if you're doing more than a couple of products, you probably want to look at them. And of course, you also want to be on Amazon. Just to continue with the remaining digital resources, content marketing and blogs, make sure your content educates and provides value. This is another important one, in my opinion. You should have a customer relationship management software, or at least be doing some email marketing because of the return. CRM, customer relationship management software solutions, are not that expensive. For most businesses, I recommend ACT. It's about $79 a month, but it does both your sales management and your email marketing function. If you want to go less expensive than that, Zoho, I think, is $15 or $25 a month, or you can just subscribe to, MailChimp or Constant Contact, which again is around that $20 number. Sending out video, you should be doing more of that. And again, I mentioned Loom and Canva and BombBomb as options to be able to embed videos in your emails. Social media. Social media should project your personality, inspire trust in your brand, and entertain. The different platforms are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Pinterest. And different social media attract different people. So women like Pinterest. Older people like me prefer Facebook as opposed to Instagram or WhatsApp for younger crowds. And to manage all that stuff, Hootsuite is probably your best solution there. And it comes with a small monthly cost, but it really helps you be more efficient and helps you track your social media. Graphic design options include Photoshop. And then if you need free images, you can go to freeimages.com, Dreamtime, Shutterstock, and video content. The two popular sites, of course, are YouTube or Vimeo. If you want to play around with animated video software, there's a site called Dooley, and it's pretty affordable to put together ads like that.
Hey, Jim, before you leave that slide, I've gotten a couple questions. Can you expand a little bit on the social media? Yes, project your personality, but help us understand a little bit more about, the content part of that.
A great question, because clients struggle with that. And so here's a list of ideas that you can implement. So number one, to recognize your employees, have an employee of the month, post their picture and their story. Employee anniversaries. You can do the same thing with customers of the month. You can highlight your products, your services, talk about discounts, talk about outstanding customer service stories, talk about company milestones. If there are things that you do in terms of safety to keep people safe, you can do that. You can maybe do a video with the person in charge of shipping, and they can talk about the process and how they send things out. So it's a great way to show your personality, build your brand, and I think it's motivating to employees and even customers. Everybody likes to see themselves on the internet. So use that. And again, I mentioned earlier, what's going to happen this year is there are going to be options through social media to engage people in e-commerce. So that's another reason to be there and be active. And of course, all your icons should be on your webpage, so people, if they want to search for them, they can. Another great thing you can do is in your email, make sure that you list your name, your title, your address, your email address, and your social media sites at the end of every email. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you,
awesome.
Jim.
Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is also very important. Then we're going to move on to our next subject. Excuse me. And what I want to do is I talked about the buyer's journey. So I want to give you an example of how you can think about that. Okay. I put together one that's a three-step process: awareness of the problem, The prospect recognizes that they have a problem, and then they make a decision. And if you look at number 4 below, I identified a couple of different pathways for them to purchase. So the first consumer is the easy to convince. They see the problem, they say, I need that, and they contact you right away. There may be customers that have to go through the linear decision process. So you have to show them all the benefits and testimonials and the whole bit. And then they say, logically, yeah, I need this. Or there may be people that you need to pick up the phone and call and help them make that decision. But to define each part of the process, the awareness of the problem, what you want to do is you want to talk about the problem, why it matters, and what happens if the prospect ignores the problem. Digital tools could include keywords, blogs, social media, landing pages, and your call to action should be to get the prospect to request more information or to call you now if they're really interested. You send them more information, and so the problem recognition phase, part number 2, starts. You want to inform them with case studies, instructional videos, polls. Digital tools include CRM, email marketing, social media. The call to action there should be to get the prospect to request information about a possible solution or call you now. And then during the decision process, you want to educate them, tell them what the competition does versus what you do differently, what's your unique selling proposition or USP. Talk about your products and service benefits, support, pricing, show them references. And you probably want to introduce some urgency to act now. So act now and save 10%. Ask for the sale or ask them to call you if they have questions. And then 1 or 2 things are going to happen. You're going to get that sale. And so you can onboard that person and ask them for a testimonial or a referral. Or you didn't get the sale yet, so you need to nurture them, go back to step number 2, but then engage them some other way, perhaps by phone or get them on a webinar to talk about your benefits. Okay, so understanding your buyer's journey, I think, is very important this year. The more sophisticated companies are going to be realigning their sales and digital marketing around it. And so hopefully this helps you understand what I'm talking about when we talk about the buyer's journey. Okay, next we're going to talk about virtual selling. In my past life, I was a stockbroker. And so I don't know that I ever figured out the market, but I received some really good sales training, and I work with a lot of companies and help them improve their sales, direct sales. There's basically 5 steps. There's preparing for the call. There's qualifying the prospect or customer, presenting, closing, and then making sure that you follow up. So here are 3 real strong statistics about why you should be thinking about selling virtually. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay, I must have lost that slide, but I remember the statistics, so I'll tell you them real quickly. So the first statistic is that 70% of buyers say that they actually prefer virtual selling. Part of that might have been a fear that, hey, I don't catch COVID, or I might be working from home. It's a better way to reach me. Statistic number 2 said that 90% of companies are going to be focusing in part or in whole on virtual selling in 2021. So that's where the market's going. For me, it's, I usually go out and talk to people about what I do, and then I sell them a survey. So I analyze their business, and then if they want to do consulting, they can. I'm going to be doing that virtually this year. That's going to save on gas. It's going to save on time. It's going to make things a lot more efficient. And the third statistic, and that one I'm going to quote in general, is that you get 20% higher quota. Well, you know what? I have the statistics right here. I'm sorry, when I printed it out this morning, oh, here it is. Okay, so sales organizations that change with the market have 17.9% higher win rates and 11.8% higher quota attainment. So the message is sell virtually or lose your competitive edge. And the first statistic is actually 77% of business owners prefer video over phone sales presentations. And I think McKinsey said that virtual selling went up 168% in the last 6 months, and they're considering part of the new normal. So let's go through the process and talk about how you can do that. So when you're preparing for a call, there's a bunch of things you want to do, and you want to do them relatively quickly. You want to learn about the buyer, decide what the best way is to reach that buyer. I have 30,000 LinkedIn followers, so I'm going to be using my leverage on LinkedIn to invite people to different virtual discussions that I'll be having. Think about your message, establish an agenda for your virtual call, and make sure you make a good first impression. And when you're doing it virtually, there's new things you have to consider. There are visual considerations, there are audio considerations, there's background, and there's physical appearance. So let's talk about those. So in terms of visual, you want to consider some lighting. The options in terms of purchasing lighting, I have this really cool light that's behind my computer right now. It has a tripod, and when I set it up, my fiance said, well, how much did that cost us? And it only ran about $30, and she was kind of surprised. It looks like it's $150, but that's basically the range that it comes in. In terms of positioning it, you want to position it behind your computer. You want to make sure that it's light to medium in terms of brightness. And then in terms of high definition cameras, I would hold off on that. A lot of people recommend it. I went to Best Buy and I asked the guy, and the guy said, most computers have great cameras. It's really the microphones that aren't as strong. So I would save your money on an HD camera. But if you do want to get one, Logitech has a 1080p, I believe, that you can purchase, and it either mounts on a tripod or on top of your screen. So microphones are important, and there's really two options there. You can invest in a speaker. A Blue Yeti mic is the most popular. I don't know if you can see mine, but here's my Blue Yeti mic. They run about $100. If you're someone who prefers headsets, though, the MPAL Bluetooth headset probably runs about half of that, and that's another option for you. In terms of backgrounds, you have 3 different types. I went with the solid color wall. That's what most people prefer. But you can also get a professional background made. And there are also virtual background options. But if you do that, you need to make sure you have a green screen behind you so it projects properly. And of course, if you don't have a background, that's okay. But make sure that the stuff behind you is clean and neat and orderly. In terms of background, also be conscious of background noises. We have a little Yorkie. She's about 5 pounds, and she goes ballistic whenever there's a squirrel. So she's in the bedroom with mom so that she doesn't interrupt us should a squirrel cross by our property. And in terms of physical appearance, professional dress, obviously, look into the camera, have good posture, big smile, keep the camera at eye level, and your head should be positioned about 10 to 20% below the top of the screen. Okay. Now let's get into the sales process. So when you're qualifying the buyer, there's 5 steps or things that you want to be conscious of. Obviously, you're going to have to open the conversation some way. And what I would recommend is this. Everybody's been impacted by COVID. And so what I might do as an opening is say, hello, Mr. Prospect or client. 2020 has been a crazy year. How have you been dealing with this? And that gets them to open up, talk about their experiences. People like to do that. And then at the same time, they're also giving you some information about how much they could buy from you. The second thing you want to do is you want to build rapport. So I teach people when they're doing sales in person, when they're walking back to that person's office, to look around at different clues. Building rapport is just talking about what you have in common with the other person. And it's a very important part of the sales process. People like to buy people who they are like and who they trust. And so things you could pick up on is awards that they've won, They might focus on quality. You can talk about what your company does in terms of quality. When you get into that person's office, they'll have pictures of their kids and their pets and their favorite sports team. And so there's a lot of things you can do to kind of break the ice and talk about that stuff quickly to establish rapport. You don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's an important part of the process. So you don't want to leave it out. Asking probing questions. So they talked about how they've managed through COVID. You might want to ask them, let's say you're in the wholesale business. What are you projecting this year in terms of your budget? Okay, that'll give you an idea of how you could position selling to them in 2021. And then you want to understand the unique purchasing pathway. One thing that is recommended when selling virtually today is that if the first part of that conversation goes well, then you want to bridge into your presentation. But if they say, hey, you know what, I've just been devastated, I'm not doing anything, you want to take them at their word. You want to offer anything that you might be able to do to help them through the crisis, and you want to ask for referrals. So asking for referrals, most people don't do. I think 11 or 12% of people ask for referrals, but 86% of people say they're willing to give a referral for good service. And so the approach that I learned that I think works really well is to talk to the client about, hey, we've done business before, you really love my service. You might not be ready to buy right now, but think about the people, your suppliers, your competitors, other people outside of your industry, people in your personal network. And who's the first person who comes to mind who may benefit from my services? That kind of gets the person thinking about it. You can tell them that, hey, if you don't want me to mention your name, or if you do, I'll do it either way. And if you did a good job for them, you'll be surprised that people will offer referrals. Referrals are a very strong way to grow your business. And so if you're not doing that, please incorporate that as part of your process. So during the presentation stage, you want to set the expectations, drive the conversation. We already talked about the economy, and once you have a sense of what their purchasing capabilities may be, you want to share impactful stories, slides, case studies, white papers, whatever will build your presentation. You want to listen to the buyer, look at their nonverbal communications, understand their current needs, and then help them with scenario planning. So let's say I'm that wholesaler and client says, well, my budget is really tight, but I know the economy is going to grow. And I didn't mention this, but one of the things that you can segue into during the presentation part is to talk to them about this statistic. Several economists over the last couple of weeks have said that they think the economy is going to grow 4.7% in 2021. So one of the things that you can ask your customers about is, are they prepared for when the economy bounces back? You may get some objections. A great approach that I like for handling objections is to handle it this way. So if you get an objection, the first thing you want to do is you want to lead with empathy. So I understand why you feel that way, Mr. Prospect. Number two, you want to restate what their problem was. So what you're saying is the real reason that you're concerned about moving forward is X. Then what you want to do is you want to isolate that objection. So is that the only reason? If it's the only reason, then you know that if you can overcome that objection, you're probably going to get a sale. If there's other things, well, then you have to deal with one at a time, but at least you know there's other things there. And then you want to state the closing condition. So if I can point out some things we could do in terms of making it easier on your budget, then it would make sense to start to build our inventory so you're able to take advantage of the rebound in the market when it happens, because supply chains aren't guaranteed still. You overcome the objection, and then you ask for the sale. In closing your presentation, there's other things you want to do. You want to talk to them about why they should act now, why they should choose you, why the risks are minimal, what happens if they don't act, and then you want to talk about the ROI of acting. So people buy on emotion, and you want to be attuned to that, but they justify their purchase based on logic. You get to the end of your presentation and there's one or two things will probably happen. You'll have an opportunity to ask for the order, or you may need to prepare a proposal. In my business, we prepare a proposal. So let's talk about the close in those two different situations. So when you're closing for the sale, you want to ask them a trial close question to see if they're ready. Everything makes sense. Do you see any reason why we shouldn't move forward now? Overcome the objections with the technique I talked about earlier. And one of the things that's important for you to realize is that most people do have questions. And so the average sale takes place between 3 and 5 objections. So what you want to do is you want to make sure, if you believe you have a good product, really make sure that there's a good reason in the client's mind why they shouldn't purchase now. So ask some questions. I don't really have the time right now, but there's a handful of standard objections. If you overcome those, you're going to be successful in getting sales. So stick in there for 3 to 5 objections. And you'll remember when we talked earlier in the conversation about digital marketing, and I said that 5 email blasts where someone isn't interested and you're going to end up in their spam folder. This is another application of that idea. If you have to prepare a proposal, this is the smart way to do it. What you want to do is you want to set the closing condition. So what I mean by that is this: you want to restate your conversation. So Mr. and Ms. Prospect, we talked about the things that you like about our company. You talked about the bad experiences you had with other companies. If I can put together a proposal that addresses your needs and it's a good value, ask for the commitment. Is there any reason why we can't move forward? If they say yes to that, then you know that when you present your proposal, you should get an answer. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you present your proposal to all the decision makers. So I would ask, is there anybody else involved in the decision besides you? And if they are, then you want to make sure that you include them when you present your proposal. And then last, you want to understand the buying process. So you might introduce that by saying, so you two are the 2 decision makers, and if you like what I present, then we can move forward. And so they might say yes to that. And so that's great. You know that if you present your proposal and you go and you provide a good value, you should get an answer, and the answer should be yes. But they might say, well, you know what, our company policy is that we have to get 3 quotes from everybody. Well, if that's the case, then what I would do is I would say, well, can I present my proposal last? The reason for that is I want to make sure that I'm comparing apples and oranges with some of the other quotes, because I think you're going to find that my solution is the best. So be conscious of those 2 different approaches and make sure that you close all the doors if you're putting together a proposal so you can get that sale after all your hard work. The last step in the process is follow-up. Jim Rohn says there's a fortune in follow-up. When I've done other presentations, I showed a picture of a field of corn. And the point I made was that, somebody invested all that time tilling the field, planting the seeds, making sure that the plant grew, it got nutrients and water and all that stuff. And so after you go through all that activity, you want to make sure you're the person who harvests that fruit, not that you set up the sale for somebody else. So in terms of following up, the steps include scheduling a follow-up call. And if you have a CRM system like ACT, you can schedule to call that person back in 6 months. And when you come in the office on your computer, it'll say, please make sure you call Jim back to follow up on your earlier phone call. You want to document your correspondence in your CRM software, periodically touch your different buyer groups, and track your progress and look for ways to improve. And your objective should be to strengthen your relationships with customers and prospects, build your sales pipeline, make sales now if you can, or be in a position to make those sales as we move past this crisis. Okay, we're going to move on to the next learning objective, which is the Boston Consulting Group's 4R. It's actually a crisis response plan. The 4 R's stand for respond, reflect, reimagine, and rebound. But they put together a plan for COVID-19. The Boston Consulting Group is one of the top strategic consulting companies in the world, and I think they have a fantastic approach. So you see up in red, the first step is to create a cross-functional team to execute your COVID response plan. Excuse me. And so we're going to go through the 4 steps next. You should be through steps 1 and 2 and be focused on 3 and 4. But you'll see that there are some things that you need to do as a company that have an external focus versus an internal focus. So let's read through those, and we'll take you back to the beginning of the crisis. When you responded during the first 30 days, you were probably supporting customers' immediate needs, making sure that you could provide their products and services, and being maybe more flexible with pricing if you needed to, shifting to digital communications and remote channels. Internally, monitoring and reprioritizing sales, working capital, supply chains, and your service agreements with customers, and arming your salespeople with remote selling tools and battle scripts. During the reflection stage, which is 3 to 12 months after the crisis, you should have been revisiting your business plans and possible scenarios, tracking your sales pipeline and deal risk, and dealing with any risk that you had, obviously. Reviewing the sales team with an HR focus and tweaking as needed. So in a digital world, it may require new skills, and what you want to do is you want to maybe bring in HR to help with the process of retraining your people. Excuse me, revisiting customer and prioritizing their needs by group, and scanning the competitive landscape to spot new opportunities are the things that you do during the reflection phase. Where you should be now is in this next phase, reimagining, which is laying the foundation to gain momentum. So you want to digitize your go-to-market strategies. You want to update your offerings and pricing based on whatever your budget is for 2021. Rebuild your foundation in terms of your data and your CRM software. Track emerging trends and execute in an agile way. So be nimble in how you approach the customer. We talked about that. And then during the last phase, which should be 2021, you want to accelerate your strategic initiatives to win. So that means scaling e-commerce, digital sales, inside sales, personalizing account engagement with joint marketing and sales tactics, deploying agile teams and conducting value-focused sprints, and establishing artificial intelligence, machine learning capabilities for things like pricing. That one, I don't know that small business is there yet. The software that we use is going to incorporate more of those things, but one application as far as pricing is this. I don't know if you guys remember Kmart. Older people in the audience may. Well, Kmart was a department store, and what they would have is what's called the blue light special. And what would happen is you'd be walking around in the store, suddenly someone would get on the PA system and say, it's blue light special time. We have this product and we're discounting the price now, so make sure you pick it up. And what they basically did was they figured out what their break even was on that particular product. And once they reach their break even, what they want to do is they want to get everything off the shelf before they have to discount it. So what they would do is they would say, well, I don't have any overhead costs, that's already been covered. And so I'm going to offer my this product at some markup over whatever the cost is just to get it off the shelf. Now, that's something that you could do. So I know that we're getting close to the hour. What I want to do is I want to close with next steps for sales leaders. There are 11 steps. The first is, and this is going to be a review, so establishing a cross-functional team to engage sales and marketing planning, reviewing your business plan and possible scenarios, and repositioning your resources around new digital sales and marketing approaches, scanning the competitive landscape for new opportunities. I'm working with customers I never imagined working with in 2021. Because I traveled a lot and that still isn't applicable for me, I had to figure out new opportunities. Deploying agile teams, conducting value-focused initiatives, reimagining your sales marketing efforts, scaling digital, e-commerce, inside sales, and personalizing your prospect and customer engagements. adjusting previous sales forecasts, including more flexibility and empathy, and focusing on short-term customer needs, matching manager and employee training and development with current skills, rethinking your sales compensation and quotas, if you need to do that to motivate people in 2021. We didn't really spend too much time on that, but that's an important one. Managing relationships with external and internal customers, introducing a digital dashboard and new analytics to improve your real-time actionable information. And last, implementing an omni-channel approach to increase your sales. And omni just means many. So many channels to selling. And what the experts were talking about here is basically what you want to do is you want to incorporate your old way of selling with some of these new digital strategies. And why is that important? Because you get 19% more engagement. It results in 250% increase in purchasing frequency, and it has an impressive customer retention rating of 90%. So in closing, I wanted to give you a quote by General Eric Shinseki, and he says, if you don't like change, you'll like irrelevance even less. So I'd encourage you to think about some of these ideas from both the digital marketing and sales perspective, put them to use. I think they can pay big dividends in 2021. Okay, wonderful. Becky, back to you.
Yeah, wonderful, Jim. Thank you. We do have some questions, a couple of sales questions, but first I'm going to start with the most recent, which was, can you expand on personalizing account engagement with joint marketing and sales tactics?
Okay, so part of personalizing digitally, there's options now where you can make sure you include that person's name, and if you segment buyers into different groups, you can have an email marketing campaign for people who need more information on a particular topic. So like I said, you want to take a step back and think about the buying pathways and customize your digital messages. In terms of doing it when you're doing a virtual call, for example, again, that's why we want to start off with what was your experience in 2021? What does your budget look like for 2021? And then you want to work with them however you need to be, however you need. So for example, my budget is really tight right now, but Jim, I know I need your product. And so what I might do is say, okay, well, I don't want you to lose any sales. How about if we do this? I'm going to send you some product next month, and I'm going to lengthen the time that you have to pay from 30 days to 60 days. Or maybe I'm going to give you some stuff on consignment, and so when you sell it, I want you to pay me, but I'm not going to put the stress on you. So you really have to look at each individual situation and see how you can make it work. And that's another reason why having that cross-functional team is important, because like I said, you want to be working with the real-time information and thinking about the different problems your customers are having, and then thinking about how you can group solutions and present those to those different buyer types.
Thank you, Jim. One sales question. The question was asked, are phone sales virtual sales?
No, virtual sales include the visual part. So so you can still do phone sales, and in some cases you're going to have a lot of success. For example, I work with contractors, and I know when I'm reaching out to new contractors, if I call early in the morning, they're going to pick up the phone because they're expecting phone calls from suppliers, and their guys are calling in about where they need to go. But a lot of people now, I have something called RoboKill, or I have an app on my phone, and so every phone call that comes in gets screened by my Robo app, and it's hard for people to get through to me, and I need to stay focused. And so phone sales can be a little bit more difficult, and so I think that's why you have to be a little bit more creative. We talked about the idea of using like Loom or Boom Boom and sending a video email. That's something interesting. When somebody pops that open, they're going to listen to. One of the strategies that I'm going to try is using LinkedIn more to ask people if they would join me for a 10-minute call to talk about a certain subject and approach them that way. So phone sales are different from virtual sales. They're more personal. You can see the buyer on the other side where you can't really do it with the phone. And so I'm encouraging you to really be thinking about both. But I think you'll find once you get started that the virtual sales are going to be a neat thing that you never thought of before.
Perfect, thank you. And this might be our last question, but it's a good one too. A couple of folks asked about just, trying to connect with businesses, how and who should they try to focus on based on their industry? What's the best way for folks to, I guess it's some of that marketing help, how do they find the new customers, the new business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the reasons why digital is important is because if you can't get through to them via phone, what you can do is you can educate them about your company, your products, your services. So digital is certainly one way that you want to do that. In my industry, for example, what I did was I focused a lot on thought leadership. And so I wrote a bunch of articles that I posted on all different types of blog sites about the COVID crisis, which is part of my toolkit now. And for the last half a decade, I've been on Bloomberg Talk Radio. So I talk about different topics. So I get out there and I try to stand out from the crowd, try to show my expertise and get customers that way. I think you have to be creative. I worked out of state almost 100% of the time. And now I'm looking at opportunities closer to home just because of the complications with respect to travel. And so the important thing is this, it is difficult, but you have one of two choices. You can say it's too difficult, I'm not going to do anything, or you can try to figure it out. And the important thing is that you need to stick in there, even though it's hard to get in touch with people, and figure out the solution that's really best for you.
Wonderful, thank you. Jim, if you'll pop up that last slide for me, please.
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. I also got a question about the recording. This seminar or webinar is recorded. And as soon as it uploads this afternoon, we will, or downloads, we will upload it to our YouTube channel. So you can find all of our webinars on our YouTube channel. You can just search the Call-In SBDC and you'll find all of them on there. If you would like the specific link, just email me or email us. You've got my information in the emails and things you got about the Zoom, and I'd be happy to send you that link. So also remember to complete the CARES application. We would love to see how many of you that we can help and hire specialists to help you. Jim did mention his toolkit, and that is something that we can send to you once you complete that CARES application. We would love to be able to share that with you. Just make a note in there that you would like a copy of that toolkit and we will get it sent to you. But thank you, everyone. We appreciate you joining us. Hope to see you on our future CARES seminars, and please reach out if we can help you any further.
Thank you, Betsy.